All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are jumping right into some incredibly powerful material. We're unpacking the core philosophies from Ryuho Okawa's seminal work, The Laws of Courage. Specifically, we're zoning in on a really transformative lecture from October 20th, 2007. This actually forms the basis of Chapter 4, which is titled Be Passionate Like Fire, and let me tell you, this material promises a massive paradigm shift. We're going to explore what true success actually looks like, how to radically redefine leadership to empower everyone around you, and ultimately, how to live with just an intense, burning passion. So if you've ever felt stuck, or maybe uninspired, or just hungry for a deeper sense of purpose, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
So what fundamentally divides the successful from the unsuccessful? It's a question we've literally all wrestled with at some point, right? When we look at people who've reached the absolute pinnacle of their fields, it's just so easy to attribute their achievements to, external factors. We think, oh, it must be raw talent, or we assume it's sheer luck, or having the right connections, a fancy education, or maybe just this ruthless ambition. But according to the source material we're looking at today, the answer is actually none of those things. No way. The real dividing line comes down to a complete foundational shift in your mindset. It's entirely about how you orient your daily existence and where you place your focus. It's an internal revolution before it ever becomes an external victory.
Section 1. The fundamental difference.
Okay, before we can climb the mountain of success, we have to recognize the traps we so often set for ourselves right at the very bottom. The text bluntly lays out a major paradox of achievement here. Self-centered living guarantees failure, while making others happy is the true path to success. Think about this in a real-world context for a second. We've all encountered that one colleague who constantly hoards credit at work, the one who throws others under the bus to climb the ladder and is completely obsessed with their own promotion. Well, eventually, that person loses the team's trust and their climb just stalls out. The source argues that if you spend your life desperately chasing success solely for your own ego, wealth, or status, you are literally building a trap for yourself. True achievement only unlocks when you pivot your focus outward, when your absolute primary driving force becomes the happiness, growth, and well-being of other people. That's when the doors to genuine, lasting success finally swing wide open.
The text states this with zero ambiguity, saying, as long as you are thinking about yourself, you cannot become happy. Man, it's a tough pill to swallow, isn't it? I really want you to reflect on this for a second. How much of your daily anxiety, your stress, your lingering frustration actually stems from a place of intense self-obsession? We are constantly asking ourselves stuff like, am I getting enough credit? Or do people like me? Or why didn't they reply to my message? The text suggests that this relentless inward focus, this endless loop of worrying about me, is the exact thing blocking our happiness. Breaking free from that self-centered cycle is step 1 on this whole journey. It's all about shifting the spotlight off yourself.
Section 2. The path to becoming a good leader.
So, once we actually manage to step outside of our own ego, what happens next? Well, expanding our capacity to accomplish great work requires an entirely new set of tools. The source lays out 3 really vital steps for putting true leadership into practice. First up, stop comparing yourself to others. The text warns that when we compare ourselves to people in similar lanes, we tend to hyper-fixate on their flaws just to make ourselves feel better. And honestly, that just breeds resentment instead of growth. Second, discover your own future within. This one is absolutely crucial. Instead of looking at the person in the next lane and trying to copy their stride, you have to run your own race. You gotta look inward to find your unique purpose. And third, you must actively nurture and develop those around you. A true leader doesn't just push their own talents to the forefront, they identify the unique strengths in others and help them shine, empowering the whole shebang, the entire team.
You see, true leadership requires a broadness of heart. Imagine an expansive, sweeping mountain valley. That's the exact kind of immense tolerance and deep magnanimity the text is describing here. These aren't skills you can just measure on a standardized test. Academic intelligence and technical prowess are one thing, for sure, but real-world leadership demands an expansive, welcoming spirit. You have to be big enough internally to hold the soaring ambitions, the inevitable flaws, and the raw potential of the people you're leading. It requires you to create a vast, supportive space where others feel safe enough to take risks and grow, much like a wide-open landscape that just stretches as far as the eye can see.
Section 3. Prepare for death, have courage.
All right, now we're shifting to a deeper, much more philosophical level to face the ultimate test of our mindset. The text introduces this ancient Buddhist concept, Fushakushin Myo, which translates to not sparing one's life. Now, I know that sounds incredibly intense, maybe even a little heavy at first glance, but the author's point here is fundamentally about discovering courage. Real, unshakable courage isn't just, drinking coffee out of a mug that says boss and doing power poses in the mirror every morning. It emerges when an individual is completely prepared to face their own mortality. In a modern context, this basically means letting go of your ego's desperate survival instinct. When you finally stop clinging fearfully to your physical safety, your status, and your pride, that's when you become truly fearless.
And this brings us to one of the most chilling yet incredibly liberating questions posed in the text. How should I die? The source reveals a really profound paradox here. It argues that if you want to know what courage is, you shouldn't just ask, how should I live? You literally cannot truly figure out how to live a meaningful life until you deeply, honestly consider how you want it to end. Facing the reality of your ultimate end instantly strips away all the trivial anxieties of daily life. Suddenly, a bitter argument over a parking spot, a delayed email as some minor slight at work, it just doesn't matter anymore. It forces your perspective to snap right into focus on what actually carries weight.
Section 4. Live passionately like fire. Because contemplating death, as the text brilliantly argues, isn't meant to make you depressed or nihilistic. Not at all. It's actually meant to be the ultimate catalyst for an incredibly vibrant, active life. The concluding vision of this philosophy is pretty simple. Courage changes human destiny. When you realize your time on Earth is strictly limited, when you let go of that ego and focus on elevating others, you ignite a fiery blood within yourself. The text tells us that the world desperately needs people who are active, fearless, and willing to step up. Utopia isn't built by people playing it safe or hiding from the world. It's built by individuals who unlock this fiery courage, sacrifice for the greater good, and passionately drive humanity forward into a much better future.
So, from shedding our limiting self-centeredness to embracing true, expansive leadership, to bravely facing our own end to unlock a fiery courage, we are left with this final lingering thought. What kind of person do you want to be remembered as after you are gone? I really want you to sit with that today. Take this powerful paradigm shift from the source material and actually apply it to your own life, your own daily work, and ultimately, your own legacy. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope these insights spark a fire in you to go out, live passionately, and build the future.